Alright, so welcome back. We're going to do a part 2 of the plasma cutter. I have a brand new lens, or new to me lens I guess, much wider angle, so hopefully you can actually see me a lot better. It's just definitely weird filming on this monster lens. So last time we had a lot of issues with the power and air on the plasma cutter, and I have the solution for the power. This is a 50-foot extension cord, 240 volt extension cord, so that should solve our power issues. Our plug is all the way back there, and air, I believe we're just gonna kind of slowly tweak. I saw here when I was editing, it says do not exceed 70 psi. I'm not sure, since this thing's not very clear, I'm not sure if that's like output 70 psi or input 70 psi. So we're going to try and leave it at input 70 psi and see if that fixes our issues. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get the plasma cutter set up, get the cord hooked up, and see how far we can get with that cord, because that'll be interesting. So yeah, we make it pretty much exactly where I wanted it to be. It's around right in here, and it's plugged in all the way on that far wall. And there you go. That's definitely much handier. So now we're gonna get the air situation figured out, which I'm gonna do off camera because that's gonna take both hands, and then we'll get the plasma cutter set up and try running all of our cuts again that we did last video on 120 volts. We're going to run them all again on 240 volts and see just how much better we can, or how much better it cuts, and hopefully we'll be able to actually cut through that 1/2 inch steel plate. Alright, so in an attempt to keep the audio for this video good, the air compressor is all the way over here, and we're going to go ahead and plug this in. A little bit of an air leak still, which not that big of a deal. So I'm really hoping this review will go better or smoother now that I have it hooked up to 220 volts. So we're going to set this up at 45 amps on the same 11 gauge steel plate that we had last time. We're going to start off with that. So once again, this is 45 amps. Make sure this is completely flat this time, because that was an issue last time. Butter. Awesome. Let's try that again. Perfect. Alright, so far, so good. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a bigger lens, slap it on there so you guys can get some nice up-close shots for whenever we do the 1/4 inch neck. So the machine's still leaking a little bit of air, but I feel like it's not as bad as it was. So we're going to 1/4 inch angle iron. Alright, here we go. Oh yeah. So yeah, this thing cuts actually really nice on 220 volt. Yeah, that's a nice clean cut compared to last time. Okay, so let's see how high this can go amps wise. So 50 amps is max. We're just gonna crank it 50 amps. And then we're gonna do 1/2-inch plate, which I'm really excited for. Oh, 1/4-inch angle, 50 amps. Just take a little cut off this time. Alright, so here we go, 1/2-inch plate. Heavy, very heavy. Here's our cut from the other day. So we're gonna see what we can do with 220. Like I said, the machine's cranked at 50 amps. I think it's gonna take a sec to cut through, but here we go. It's doing it. Look at that sucker. Still glowing. So yeah, this is definitely a little bit thicker than I think this machine is rated to cut. You can tell by the angle, it's a little bit curved out like that. But it cut it. It was a little slow, obviously, but it was super, super thick. I'm gonna try what this 4T thing is. So I have no idea what this 4T mode will do. We're gonna test it out. On this 1/2-inch. Ah, perfect timing. Now we're gonna kick it back on again. I don't know if this is like a push button. You push the trigger and it lights the arc, and you push the button again, the trigger, or you push the trigger again and the arc kicks off, or we'll see. Nope. That is super cool. Gonna risk my camera equipment for y'all, but I want a really close-up shot. Right there. Don't hurt my lens. Dang, look how hot that is. Alright, so I was messing around with the modes on this, and I don't know what this is. It goes all the way up to 15. I'm assuming that's pilot arc time. But we're going to mess around with it. Let's set it to 10, and then I'm just going to fire up the arc and see if that changes anything. Alright, so let's test this mode out. Assuming it's just like pilot arc time. Yep. So yeah, it's just a timer for how long it lets the pilot arc stay on. So that's pretty cool. That'll be handy in some situations. So now that we've pretty much maxed out the capabilities of this thing on thickness, I want to see how long it can cut now. I want to see if we can hit like overheat this machine, hit thermal overload, something like that. So I have this long, or not long, but it's probably like a foot long piece of tubing. I'm going to clamp it to the table, and then I'm going to try and cut all the way down. And then if it's still working, then I'll flip it over and cut it all the way down again. And then we'll just keep doing that until we overheat the machine or something. So we're gonna keep it at, well, we're gonna bump it down a little bit actually. We're gonna bump it down to, we'll do 35 amps.
Oh, we actually run this thing a lot faster than I thought.
Alright, so it cut down that side without shutting off.
Let's test out some little designs. There we go.
Now I should start cutting it up. Still running. I'm just gonna keep cutting. But this time I'm gonna try piercing and see how long it'll take to pierce through some things.
So there's no cut here, so fire pilot arc, let it pierce through.
So yeah, I don't think this thing's gonna overheat or hit thermal overload anytime soon, which is quite impressive. So I guess final thoughts on this machine. When it's hooked up to 220 volts, it's a major difference compared to 120 volts. 120 volts, at least on my circuit, or how everything's wired up in my house. I couldn't run very much on 120 volts, as you saw in my first review, and I kind of probably came across as a little mad because, you know, I just expected it to do better. Some of my welders, they can weld just fine on 120 volts. Well, this clearly draws a little bit more power. So in that review, that video, we basically determined that it could cut 11 gauge and 1/4 inch fairly decently, but with 240 volts, it'll cut up to ½ inch. I'd say it'll probably cut past ½ inch, but I'd say ½ inch is right around where you probably want to stop. Cut it, but it was starting to wander out a little bit. And if you want, you know, straighter, more perfect cuts, that's what I'd stop at. See, we tested that, how thick it had cut. And then we also tested the pilot arc, some of the features. So that pilot arc thing would be pretty handy if you want to keep the pilot arc for a long time. Like if you're cutting like mesh, metal mesh, something like that, fencing stuff, that'd be pretty handy for that. And then we tried the longevity test and tried to, you know, make this machine overheat. And we were running it at, I think, 35 amps. And as you saw, well, I don't know if you saw the entire thing, but we cut for about 4 minutes on the first clip, and then it was probably about another 5 minutes on the second clip, and it just ran the entire time, didn't have any issues whatsoever. So definitely a lot more positive review. Definitely seems a lot better now that I'm running it on the power, you know, 240 volts, what it was designed to run on. It just sucks that the cord is so short, so if you're in like your garage or a workshop that doesn't have many plugs like me, you know, I had to go out and buy a 240 volt extension cord, which it's 50 foot, and that's not cheap. So that was the only kind of bummer thing with this machine, that in order to get it to work, I had to, you know, spend that money to buy an extension cord. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be, it was worth it, and it's definitely going to be helpful. It can clearly cut, cut for a long time, cuts really nice for the price point of this machine, which I think was around $230 on Amazon. So that's really, it's not bad. It's a pretty decent machine for that money. Hope you enjoyed this review, and hopefully you get a little bit more clarity out of it than my last review, because my last review things were just kind of all over the place. So hopefully this clears some things up and helps you make a decision if you're thinking about buying this machine. And hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.